The story begins with two young men whose lives had already taken a dark and dangerous turn. Just a few days ago, they were released from prison. Their names are Vic and Tom. There was a strange coldness on their faces, like they weren't rushing into anything, but instead were executing a carefully planned operation. Their first move is choosing an old abandoned house in a deserted area. Inside, there's a room they meticulously transform into a soundproof chamber, so perfectly sealed that not even the faintest noise can escape. From the walls to the doors, everything is designed with precision, as if this place is meant for something truly sinister. Next, they turn their attention to their van. From the outside, it looks completely ordinary, but inside, they modify it the same way, making it fully soundproof. Now everything is ready. All that's left is to carry out the plan. The next morning, they drive out in the van and stop at a remote location far from the city. It's eerily quiet, a place where hardly anyone passes by. They wait silently, as if they know that in just a few moments, everything is about to change. After a while, a girl walks by alone. Seizing the opportunity, they quickly put on masks and attack her without warning. She screams with all her strength, but they overpower her, force her into the van, tie her hands and mouth, and drive away without wasting a second. Soon, they arrive back at the same old house where the soundproof room is already prepared. The girl struggles desperately to break free, but they tie her to a bed. Then, they dress her in a red outfit and take several photos, clearly intended to be used for ransom. A little later, Vic and Tom return to the room. This time, Vic steps forward and leans toward her, speaking in a chillingly calm voice. "We need your dad's email address. If we get the money, you'll go home safe. But if not, your chances of surviving are slim." The girl's name is Stella. She's trembling with fear. Tears fill her eyes, and her voice shakes. Terrified, she finally gives them her name and then her father's email address. After some time, Stella gathers the courage to ask if she can go to the bathroom. Fear is evident in her voice, but Vic, without showing any emotion, coldly replies, "Do whatever you have to, right here." Hearing this, shame and helplessness flood Stella's eyes. She has no other choice. Forced by the situation, she loses control right there, turning the moment into something deeply humiliating. A heavy silence fills the room. Now the kidnappers move to the next phase of their plan. The photos they took are sent to Stella's father. Tom appears extremely nervous during this time. His breathing becomes rapid, his face filled with anxiety. But Vic remains completely calm, not a trace of fear on his face, as if he already knows how everything will unfold. One day passes after sending the photos, then another, but there is no response from Stella's father. The truth is, Stella's father is one of the richest and most powerful men in the city, but things within his family are far from normal. Due to certain mistakes made by Stella's mother, he grew to hate her. The situation worsened so much that he eventually threw both Stella and her mother out of the house. That's why, even with Stella's life in danger, there's no response from him. As time goes on, Tom's anxiety keeps increasing. He becomes so stressed that he stops eating altogether. Seeing this, Vic sternly orders him to eat. "You have to eat. We can't quit halfway through this." But Tom refuses. At that moment, Vic forcefully stuffs food into his mouth. He reminds him that they're already trapped in this situation, and now they have no choice but to see it through together. After finishing the meal, Vic walks out of the room, leaving Tom alone inside. Sitting alone, Tom starts looking at the photos they had sent to Stella's father. As he stares at them, the uneasiness on his face only grows stronger. It's clear, those pictures mean something deeper to him, something personal. After a while, Tom slowly walks towards Stella's room. She's still tied up. The moment she sees him, she gestures with her finger. She needs to use the bathroom again. Tom stands there in silence for a few seconds. Then he starts arranging something nearby so she can manage without being untied. But Stella refuses immediately. Her voice trembling, she says, "I can't do that. Please untie me." Tom hesitates. He knows that if Vic were here, he would never allow this. But Stella keeps pleading. Again and again, and eventually, Tom gives in. Still, he's careful. As he unties her, he pulls out his gun and points it straight at her. In a cold voice, he warns, "Don't try anything smart, or I won't hesitate to shoot." Stella nods, then softly asks him to turn around. Tom hesitates for a moment, but slowly turns his back. The second he does, everything changes. Stella quickly grabs a nearby bucket and with all her strength, strikes Tom. He doesn't even get a chance to react. The impact knocks the gun out of his hand. In an instant, Stella picks it up. Now the situation is completely reversed. Tom stands there, at gunpoint. With a shaking voice, Stella says, "Give me the key, now." Tom slowly reaches into his pocket and pulls out the key. But as he tries to hand it over, a sudden struggle breaks out between them. In the chaos, the gun goes off. A loud bang echoes through the room, but luckily, the bullet hits no one. In that same moment of panic, Stella grabs Tom's mask and pulls it off, and the second she sees his face, her breath stops. Her eyes widen in shock, because standing in front of her is not a stranger. It's Tom, the same man she was in a relationship with just 4 months ago. Stella, shaken and heartbroken, whispers, "Tom, why are you doing this?" Anger flashes in Tom's eyes. In a cold, bitter tone, he replies, "You ruined my life. You left me, and now you're not going anywhere." Saying this, Tom suddenly snatches the gun back and ties Stella's hands and legs again. She tries to speak, but he quickly covers her mouth and even her face. Then, in a low voice, he says, "Vic must not find out that you recognize me. If he does, he'll kill both of us." With that, Tom walks out and returns to his room, sitting down in silence. After some time, Vic comes in as well. He looks visibly frustrated. Annoyed, Vic says, "Still no response from her dad." Hearing this, fear spreads across Tom's face. He knows, if the money doesn't come, Vic won't let Stella live, and Tom doesn't want that to happen. Vic continues, "Tonight I'll keep watch on the girl. You get some rest. Tomorrow morning we'll record a video and send it to her dad. This time we'll definitely get the money." The night passes, and the next morning, both of them walk into Stella's room again. But this time, their plan is far more terrifying. They decide to fake harming Stella, record it, and send the video to her father. But the moment Stella hears this, she is completely terrified, because Vic isn't just pretending, he's actually preparing to cut off one of her fingers. The camera turns on. The video begins. Through tears, Stella looks straight into the camera and says in a trembling voice, "Dad, I never listened to you. That's why there was always distance between us. But now I'm ready to do anything you say. Just please get me out of here." Tears stream down her face. Then, crying even harder, she adds, "Please, save me. I'm 4 months pregnant." The moment Tom hears this, it feels like the ground disappears beneath his feet. His expression completely changes. He immediately stops Vic and says, "No, there's no need for blood. This video is enough. We'll get the money." Vic agrees and backs off. And just like that, Stella is saved from losing her finger. The recorded video is quickly sent to her father, handled by Vic, who clearly has experience in these kinds of situations. But Tom is far from calm. Stella's condition, her words, and the truth about her pregnancy, everything keeps replaying in his mind. He's breaking down from the inside. The next day, when both of them enter Stella's room to feed her, Tom suddenly notices something on the floor. It's the bullet shell from the shot fired the previous night. The color drains from his face. Panic sets in. If Vic sees it, he'll get suspicious immediately, and then anything could happen. At that moment, Vic is busy feeding Stella. Tom slowly starts moving toward the shell, but suddenly, without even looking at him, Vic says, "Stay right there." Tom freezes. His heart is racing. A few moments later, the spoon slips from Vic's hand and falls to the floor. Seizing the opportunity, Tom quickly bends down. While picking up the spoon, he also grabs the shell and hides it tightly in his fist. Without wasting a second, he heads straight to the bathroom. He tries to flush the shell down the toilet, but it won't go down. Just then, Vic's voice comes from outside. "Open the door!" Tom panics. If Vic walks in now, everything could fall apart. With no other option, Tom pulls the shell back out and tries to hide it somewhere else. But before he can, the door opens. Vic walks in. In a moment of desperation, without thinking, Tom swallows the bullet shell. Vic looks at him suspiciously and asks, "What took you so long?" Tom quickly makes up an excuse, and the two of them walk back out. Now the situation is even more complicated. Tom wants to save Stella, but Vic is no ordinary man. He's a dangerous gangster, and he's always been strict and intimidating, even with Tom. After a while, Vic has to step out for some urgent work. Before leaving, he warns Tom in a harsh tone, "Don't take your eyes off the girl, not even for a second." As soon as Vic leaves, Tom rushes straight into Stella's room. He removes the gag from her mouth and quietly asks, "Why did you lie in the video about being pregnant?" Stella looks at him, then softly replies, "That wasn't a lie. It's the truth. The baby is yours." Tom is stunned. He can't believe it and starts turning away. But Stella quickly says, "If you don't believe me, put your hand on my stomach and feel it." Hesitating, Tom steps closer and gently places his hand on her stomach, but he doesn't feel anything. Confused, he asks, "If that's true, why didn't you tell me before?" Tears fill Stella's eyes. She says, "You were always running from responsibility. When I needed support, you were either in jail or far away from me. That's when I found out I was pregnant, and I decided I'd keep my child away from your broken life." Anger flashes back into Tom's eyes. He responds, "Every day in prison, I waited for you. You promised you'd get me out through your dad, but you never came. And my love slowly turned into hate." He continues, "Then I met Vic in prison. That's where we made this plan. I was full of anger, so I chose to go along with him." Then, in a cold voice, Tom adds, "But don't think for a second that I'll let you go without getting money from your dad." Without arguing further, Stella tells him that if he still doesn't believe her, he can check the pregnancy report on her phone. Tom pauses for a moment, then goes and brings her phone. But just as he's about to insert the battery, a thought crosses his mind. If the phone turns on, could the signal alert the police? He's still thinking about it when suddenly Stella's condition worsens. She feels nauseous and starts throwing up, unable to control herself. Tom panics. Left with no choice, he unties her hands so she can feel some relief. He tries to steady her, and in that moment, old memories begin to resurface between them. For a few seconds, everything feels still. In their eyes, that old connection briefly returns, but then everything flips again. Seizing the moment, Stella suddenly locks Tom's arm. Startled, Tom says, "Don't do this. You'll only make things worse for yourself." But Stella ignores him and runs toward the door. She tries to open it, but it's already locked. Now frantic, she looks around quickly, grabs a phone lying nearby and calls the police. In panic, all she manages to say is, "I've been kidnapped," but she can't give her location, and the call disconnects. Meanwhile, Tom is struggling to free himself. He reaches toward the keys. Stella runs toward them too, but just as she gets close, Tom suddenly pushes her hard. In one forceful move, he knocks her unconscious. Stella collapses to the floor. Tom stands there, staring at her for a few moments, guilt clearly visible on his face, because the girl he's hurting is the same one he once loved. After a pause, he ties her up again. After some time, Vic returns. He looks surprisingly happy. With a faint smile, he says, "Her dad is ready to pay. Now we just have to release the girl, and we'll get what we asked for." Tom then goes outside to get the van. Meanwhile, Vic walks towards Stella to untie her. Suddenly, his phone slips out of his pocket and falls to the ground. Vic quickly picks it up and casually checks the call history. That's when he sees it. A call made to the police. His eyes narrow with suspicion. He looks at Stella and asks, "How did you get a phone?" Panicking, Stella replies, I don't know. Maybe it's Tom's." Vic immediately responds, "How do you know his name?" Now the tension in the room turns deadly. Stella goes silent. Vic starts inspecting the room, the walls, everything carefully, and then he finds it, the bullet shell. Now his suspicion turns into certainty. He pulls out a knife and, threatening her, demands the truth. Terrified, Stella finally breaks and says, "Tom, he's my ex-boyfriend." Cut to the other side. Tom is sitting in the van when he suddenly finds Stella's medical report. As he reads it, everything becomes clear. She was telling the truth. But when he returns, Vic doesn't let him realize that he already knows everything. Vic calmly loads his gun and in a chilling tone says, "Sometimes I doubt you, especially when you hide things." Then he continues, "We did this together, and we're about to get paid, but I need one answer. Will you always be honest with me or not?" Tom understands instantly. This is a test. Carefully choosing his words, he replies, "No matter how much you doubt me, or whatever you find out about my past, I was honest with you before, and I still am." Vic stares at him for a few seconds, then says, "We'll have to knock the girl out." After that, they render Stella unconscious and move her to another location. The plan is simple. No face-to-face exchange. They'll leave Stella at a deserted spot, and her people will pick her up later. They take her to an isolated place, lock her inside, and Vic keeps the keys with himself. But in reality, Vic has something else in mind. He suddenly changes the plan. Looking at Tom, he says, "We'll collect the money from a different location. Once we have it, we'll leave the keys there and walk away together." Both of them drive out toward a forested area to collect the money. The moment they step out of the vehicle, Tom secretly inserts the battery into Stella's phone, hoping the signal might reach the police. But Vic is far more dangerous than he seems. In truth, he brought Tom here for one reason: to eliminate him. Pointing ahead, Vic says, "Go to that red mark. That's where the money is," and sends him forward. Tom starts walking, but he has no idea. This path doesn't lead to money. It leads to death. Nervous, Tom moves ahead, scanning the area. There's no bag, no cash, nothing. It doesn't take long for him to realize something is very, very wrong. Just then, a voice comes from behind. Tom turns around and sees Vic standing there, pointing a gun straight at him. In a cold, emotionless tone, Vic says, "This isn't where we collect the money. I knew from the beginning you'd betray me. Because of your mistake, the police are already involved, but I know how to handle situations like this." Stepping closer, he adds, "Now you have to die, because you're no longer trustworthy. And Stella won't survive either, because you told her my name." Now Tom is completely trapped. He starts pleading, but Vic has already made his decision. Suddenly, seeing an opportunity, Tom shoves Vic and starts running. Vic immediately opens fire. After running a short distance, a bullet hits Tom. He stumbles, but somehow manages to drag himself into the bushes and escape Vic's sight. On the other side, Stella slowly regains consciousness. She finds herself locked in a confined space, weak, helpless, with no one around. She screams for help, but there's only silence. Meanwhile, Vic wastes no time. He collects the money and heads back to the place where Stella is being held. Now his intention is clear. He plans to inject Stella and kill her so that no evidence is left behind. He pulls out a syringe and moves closer to her, but suddenly, Tom attacks him from behind. Vic is startled, but quickly regains control and fires again without hesitation. Tom is hit once more and collapses to the ground. Now he has taken 2 bullets. Survival seems almost impossible. Vic, furious, is about to finish him off when suddenly Stella lunges at him from behind with all her strength. Vic falls, and the gun slips from his hand onto the ground. With the last bit of strength left in him, Tom grabs the gun and, without wasting a second, fires straight at Vic's head. In that very moment, Vic dies. The real danger is finally over, but Tom is barely alive. He struggles to breathe, yet somehow gathers enough strength to pull the keys from Vic's pocket and throws them toward Stella. Stella picks them up, unlocks herself, and rushes to Tom. These are his final moments. He looks at her just once, and then his eyes close forever. Stella bursts into tears. Then, somehow, she musters up the courage to step outside and reach the car. When she sees the bag full of money inside, everything becomes clear. Her father did all this just to protect his reputation. He wasn't afraid of losing his daughter. He was afraid of society. Despite being so powerful, he neither allowed the police to act nor came to save his own child. This realization shatters Stella completely. In the end, she makes a decision. She will leave this city and start a new life, far away, with her child. And with that emotional moment, the story comes to an end. A story that had love, betrayal, and in the end, a painful truth.